Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Semi Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Bradley Downer. Tonight, our guest is Miss Maria Fraser. Maria is a biology graduate from the University of Guyana and holds a master's degree in marine sciences, more specifically marine biology, from Zhejiang University, China. Maria demonstrates skills in the research field of marine and freshwater toxicology, air pollution, and conservation. She's a recipient of the University of Guyana Berbice Campus Director's Award and the best graduating student with the highest CPA in the Faculty of Natural Sciences, and also recipient of the Excellent International Student Award from Zhejiang University. Maria has received two scholarship awards to study her master's degree in Thailand and China under the Government of Ghana Scholarship Program in 2017. Today, she's currently a marine biologist and a young entrepreneur in the field of agriculture, where she's growing and promoting organic farming and sustainable environmental management. Throughout her career, she has been volunteering at several organizations. She's an enthusiastic adventurer and explorer who cares deeply about the environment. Maria enjoys involving and mentoring young, passionate students, and as such, she's currently an executive of Guyana Marine Conservation Society and a marine biologist at the Ministry of Natural Resources. Yeah, it's not regarding. Yes. Good evening, Ms. Fraser. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on board with you guys. Of course, love to share my experience as a marine biologist with you and the team.
Thank you. Before we start the questions, actually, that is a career I would have heard about a lot as a child. When you watch National Geographic, it kind of was, I guess, one of the careers I actually wanted. But as I grew older, I kind of loved many other things, so I changed. So my first question would be, what career did you pursue?
Well, you see, similar like you, how you wanted to be a marine biologist when you were younger. I had no intentions of becoming a marine biologist, actually. So my plan was to pursue medicine. Medicine was always my passion. But when I started UG, I got into the biology program, the associate. So I was there and I was having the field work and I started to develop a passion and an interest for nature. When I go into the interior or any forested area, I was like, oh my God, I totally love this. And so in that second year of UG, you have this transition and go into med school and so on. Well, I had competition. Like half of my class wanted to study medicine. So I thought about it for some time. Like, it's like 30 of my colleagues want to go and study medicine. They're all going to become doctors in the next 5 years. But then that's also competition at the end of the day. Why not pursue something that is different, something that is unique, something that Guyana doesn't have? And, so I gave it some time. I was thinking and thinking what to do. So I decided to complete the entire biology program. And after that, one day I saw this scholarship in the newspaper for marine biology, or marine sciences, actually. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. So I give that a try. Of course, 50-50. I wasn't too sure if I was going to get through or not. And then I got through. So when I went there to the Chinese embassy, I asked if anybody else applied, and they said no. So I was like, oh, good. So, and then I, of course, asked my fellow colleagues and UG professors if there were any marine biologists around, and it was like, no, you're going to be one of the first. So that's how come I got involved in marine biology. So I would always say that, you know, marine biology or marine sciences is something that chose me. I did not choose that. And I found it to be quite exciting, quite fascinating. And of course, like these little small things in your environment actually influences you. Like Marie, you were saying about National Geo. I used to love what I still do love watching National Geo and you know discovering what's there, and then they would talk about these angler fishes and stuff swimming by. I'm like, wow, the ocean is fascinating yet scary at the same time. But you know, it's always there and this interest and curiosity to explore. So that's a little bit of what drive me in terms of also continuing the program too.
That is very interesting. And like you said, the environment that you're in actually influences you. Um, like I told you before, as a kid, there were various science shows that I would watch, National Geographic, how it's made, and that it fueled my passion for science and technology at the same time. So as a kid, I had several careers that I wanted to pursue. I had a mind that's like, okay, if the first one doesn't work, it is gonna be the
Mhm.
second one. However, as I grew older, that passion was no longer there.
Mhm.
So I chose a different career.
Yeah, it happens because even when I was young, I remember, you know, watching sports, especially car racing and so on. I was like, hey, I want to be a car racer too. Obviously, that didn't work out. I need to go down a path that it was used and suitable for Guyana as well too. So as you're young, when you're a child growing up, you're seeing different things. Obviously, you're influenced by environment, by your family, by your neighbors and people around. But there comes a point in time when you need to sit down and look at it from your perspective. Is this what I want to do? You know, sometimes we find it too in young people, you know, your parents pushes you to do something that you're not interested. Many people want to be lawyers and doctors and stuff like that, but there's a little child out there who is crazy about engineering and wants to do that, but then the parents doesn't want them to do. So that's something that I would say to family and young people as well too. Like, you know, if you're very passionate in something and this is 110% sure that this is what you want to do, then pursue it. It might be challenging, it will be challenging at some point, but at the end of the day, if this is what you want to do, go for it. And
And that's another reason why we started the podcast. So I would always hear some parents or kids saying they just want to be maybe a teacher or a soldier or the regular careers that you would always hear about. Um, then I joined STEM Ghana in 2018. I was doing some STEM talks across Region 5. And you know, sometimes you ask the kids, hey, what do you want to become? Or what careers do you are you interested in? And they go back and tell you the same traditional careers, being a lawyer, maybe a doctor, and that's
a
about it.
teacher, that those
Correct.
basic
Yes,
things. Yeah.
correct. Those basic careers. And some of my friends, we started a podcast to bring about awareness of various careers that there are out there, not just in Guyana, maybe across the Caribbean or even abroad. We've had guests from across the world, I would say. You'll hear about some careers that I've never heard of in my entire life, but they actually do exist out there. And
Yes,
like you said,
yes.
don't just choose a career because mommy says this is what I want to do or this is what is best.
Hmm.
Um, it literally doesn't matter which career you choose. It is gonna get hard at times, but you just have to keep going.
Correct. And that's absolutely true. Because you never know. Like I could recall when I decided to do the marine biology, of course you're asking for second opinions if this is a good thing or whatever. There's some people that were saying you know, why go do marine biology? Guyana ain't got blue waters. You know, that's the first thing. They ain't got a job for you, they don't pay well, and you know all the negativity that comes in behind it. But how would you know that negativity would turn to the positivity? like now presently in Guyana, there's I won't say a demand, but there's a growing interest in careers in marine biology or marine sciences in total. And like you mentioned before, in terms of different careers you're hearing, you got marine engineers, you got oceanographers, you got marine biologists, you got fishery scientists, you got divers, you got so many things, even marine pharmaceuticals as well too, which most of our drugs actually come from the marines. So while I was doing my studies, I was exposed to so many different things, and I was like, I was blown off my feet. I was like, I didn't know this existed. Because again, it's where the niche that you're with and the surrounding, the environment and the people, you're sort of, let's say, limited to career choices.
That's true. When I started the podcast, I also volunteered other groups, and they had a career session. And there's a lady there from Trinidad. She was a volcanologist, right? And in my head,
Mhm.
what?
What is
I
that?
am an adult, right? And I'm like, what?
Uh-huh.
And then she's basically a scientist who studies volcanoes.
You're right. So you'll be like, what is this? What is she even speaking about? This is so weird. This is so
Correct?
strange. Hmm.
We eventually got her to join the podcast, and then she was able to share a bit more about her career. But it was shocking for me, and I'm pretty sure other people out there who saw the video were also shocked because I've never
Never
really
heard about
heard of
it.
that word before.
Yep.
So this is one of the reasons why we do this, and we're hoping that young people see the need because these careers are actually what's driving the future. Yes, teachers are needed, but now with the oil and gas industry, we need more persons within the STEM and ICT fields.
Correct, exactly. And I think that this whole podcast is a good way to start because you're gonna share it. It's on YouTube. It's a live platform, so it goes viral. And now, young people, we have technology. We got your phone,
Correct.
so it's easy to scroll through and see, hey, no, this is happening. I can recall about a year ago. I don't know if you know when they on the seawall they had this. It was given off this terrible stench.
Yeah, I
You remember
recall that.
that, right? Yeah. So, and people wanted to know why is this thing on on the seawall? It smells nasty. It's terrible and stuff, which was sarcasm, but people didn't know about it. So one of my friends was like, "Hey Maria, we went out on the seawall." He was like, "Let's do a video." And I was like, "Man, I don't want to do a video." I was a bit hesitant about it. He was like, "You need to educate the people about this because they don't know what is it and so on." Anyways, um did the video and I didn't realize that, I raised so much awareness in terms of the sarcasm, the uses, how harmful it could be, the both positive and negatives of it. But that's just a typical example to see how it goes. And then, people from different parts of the Caribbean reached out and they started to talk about how it's impacting their tourism in the country. And I was like, wow, this is quite amazing. But just look how technology brings people from different parts of the world to connect to them that has this one common interest and also educating your population at the same time too, right?
Correct. I recall I saw the video on, I think it was Learning Channel. Somewhere else. I saw the video. I saw the
Yeah, yeah,
video.
yeah. I didn't, well, TikTok is not my thing, right? So I decided to post it there because it's easier to upload at one point. And over that period of time, I got so much like it's like I don't even have this amount of friends on TikTok. It was like two followers initially. Yeah.
All right. So my next question would be to describe a day in the life of your career. What's like being a marine biologist?
All right. So I can probably start from the basics to now. 4 years, let me date back 6 years ago when I started the program and like the second year into the program. That's where the fun stuff began. Um, so that's where the first time I was studying in China. I did my master's in marine biology in China, and they took me offshore, and we were collecting samples of both soil, water, and deep sea fishes to for studies, for research. So we spend a period of time offshore in this gigantic boat and some huge waves, over like 200 feet and stuff like that. And I mean, I was a bit scared, definitely, but the excitement, you know. So started to collect the samples and then analyze it. So whilst I was doing that first part of the research, and I had to investigate microplastics. So when they told me about microplastics, I wasn't so curious or interested in that thing. I was like, oh, okay. I was excited more like diving corals and those things. So got into the whole aspect of it, of the taking out the tissues, the stomach content, and so on from the fishes. Then we examined for microplastics, and that's when I discovered that microplastics are so small as the size of the blood cell that it could be incorporated into our body. That's when I realized, like, wow, this is a whole different level of research. So from collecting the samples offshore to investigating it and analyzing it, and then the part of it is where how do you get this information out? So this comes to the academic part of it, writing papers, publishing, so that other scientists can see your work and also utilize it as well too. So that's the first part. The other fun stuff now is when you're doing diving. So imagine you're going down there. Well, of course, first you're all excited again, but when you get into the water for a first time dive, you're like, holy crap, this is dark. You're thinking about the caimans, you're thinking about the snakes, you're thinking about the the sharks, you know, all these sci-fi movies you watch, right? But then it gets very interesting because you see a whole different ecosystem existing on there. And that also raises this curiosity, like what's more? What's more is there to see? How can I go explore more? But that's another part of it. Now let's fast forward a bit. Coming back to Guyana, my first exhibition would have been with the WWF. They had a ocean or megafauna survey. And I remember this was in 2021, just well, COVID, getting a little bit off of COVID, recovering back. And they sent us offshore to investigate our EEZ, which is our exclusive economic zone. So, you know, the first thing Guyanese would say, oh, we only got brown waters. We ain't got no blue waters. So we started to go off from the Currentine River, and we came all the way back to the Region 1 border. So we are going in a transit, and you could see, you know, the transition of the water. That was the first part, from brown to green, and then blue, crazy blue, lovely. And then you start seeing dolphins. That was the exciting part of it. Like, what? Dolphins? And then you realize it's not just one type of dolphin or one species of dolphin. You had like four other species there, like in front of the boat that we're on. Then you see a whale in the background, and then they come into you in pots. I was like, wow. So that was a fun part. But despite all of that, being a researcher, you have to compromise in terms of your comfort. Comfort meaning bathing for 20 minutes to 30 minutes, right? Instead of doing that, you take military baths, which is like, you know, you throw a little bit of water, you soap up, and then you wash off, and that's it. Some days you don't have any fresh water, so you got to figure out how is it you're showering. Sleeping arrangements, of course, is not your comfy bed. Sometimes you be sleeping in hammocks, or you sleep on the little bunk you're sharing. But that's part of the journey. That's part of the experience of it. Then moving forward now, I actually transitioned a little bit more into conferences, attending conference, speaking about the work that we do here in Guyana, representing Guyana in that platform of it, sharing data, sharing information. That's a whole other thing by itself. You know, you get all dressed up in your jacket and you look very professional and so on, as comparing to being out in the sea looking all saltwater colored. And then after that, there was a period in my career where like about a year, I think I spent on the energy aspect of things, which was a totally different transition part of it. And that was something a bit challenging. but at the same time, a great experience because I got to coordinate a project that I never thought I would have been doing. And I learned so much about the engineering aspect of it, coordination and law. And this made me start to think more where my career can go from this. I know I always wanted to do my PhD as a third phase of it, but do I want to do it in marine biology, or now do I want to do it in law or a bit of another type of or engineering or so forth? So I think I may have strayed away a bit from my question there in terms of a day in the life of my career, but at this point of it right now, it comes to working with other researchers, collaborating with other researchers, writing reports, managing the team, working with local communities in terms of spreading awareness about marine conservation, of course.
Thank you. I don't think it's straight away. You can't give us like snippets of, because I don't think your day will be one way all the time. You kind of give us snippets of various days. This is how I see it. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing.
yeah, but some days it's very quiet. We all need a break. Of course, we need our sleep. You have quiet days, you have very busy days. Some days you're like, hey, what am I going to do today? Maybe just watch a movie and relax.
All right. So for the purpose of our audience, could you tell us how is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics or information communication and technology integrated into your career?
All right. Very good question. That's a very long question too. So science and technology, how does that integrate in marine biology? I want to ask you that. What do you think or how do you think, or what type of technology do you think marine biologists or marine scientists use? Since I've mentioned different career path, marine engineering, or oceanographers, anything.
So from my point of view, the science stems, it's marine biology. You have to understand how the body works, how the animals are. So you have to understand the science behind that. In terms of technology, it can go multiple ways. You might need a database history information. You have to prepare reports. You might need to use some form of technology to prepare reports. Um, you might need to utilize I would say drones, maybe underwater drones. I think there's a name for it, but
Yes,
for that,
ROVs.
oh yes, the ROVs, yes,
You're along the right top, the right point.
correct.
Actually, that's very, very good.
So you would need those to evaluate or to see what's happening under. I mean, yes, you might have persons going under, but then they might not be able to go everywhere. So you need those machines or those ROVs to be able to do that for you.
Correct. That's absolutely right. So, part of I could speak of some of the work that's presently done in Guyana. For example, Shell Beach. As you know, Shell Beach is one of the the only coastal protected area in Guyana, and it's home to four of the seven sea turtles. So, which would be the leatherback, the olive wriggly, hawksbill, and green turtle. Yes, I go to say loggerhead. So one part of what we do there is to use drone technologies in terms um, of doing aerial footage if there's any sea turtle present along the beach, and also monitor the erosion aspect of the beach using virtual shots. We also do monitoring of the mangrove area as well, because there are instances where poaching is something that is very high at Shell Beach area. A lot of people use the sea turtle meat and the eggs for their own personal uses. It's like how we eat chicken, right? Um, so what we do with the team out there, I'm a drone trained pilot, and also we train other of the ranges out there, basic stuff. So they fly across to see if there's any activities. If they spot a turtle, they get there, they relocate the eggs to safer grounds and ensure that the sea turtles get back out at sea. That's one part of it. Another part that we utilize is the ROV. So remember I mentioned earlier that when you go under the water, you're thinking like, They could be sharks, it could be things that you don't even know going on there that could grab you, especially in Guyana waters. You know, they got a lot of anacondas and caimans and some crazy big toothed fish, right? So having that type of technology, the ROVs that is custom built, you can send it on the water to see, scan the area if there's anything in particular, and then you start to do your documentation. Of course, when it comes to technology aspect of it, I am not the best of best in that. So people with CSI and all those things, they would start to analyze the data. But from image part of it, I can definitely analyze that part. We also use GPS. Simple things. You're going in places that you don't know where you're going to. You definitely need to use a GPS. And it's the same concept like some people who are not certain which street is a one-way in Georgetown and it guides you to the right part. So similar aspect of it. What else? For the engineering aspect of it, well, the principle is pretty much applied with design experiments and creating a sustainable solution, especially for marine conservation. So, in terms of how do we manage coastal erosion? What techniques can we use? How can we prevent that? Or solutions to that. So this is where marine biologists would partner with the engineers to say, well, look, this is our drone images. And this shows how coastal areas, how our coast is being, eroding over the period of time. The engineer will say, well, listen, we can put up seawalls, gabion baskets, or a simple riffraff to prevent erosion as a temporary structure. So that's how we mix and integrate that. So that's again comes back to collaborating with different people of different discipline, of course. And let's see, from the mathematical aspect of things, of course, it comes back to analyzing data, calculating, doing all those fancy equations, which I have no idea of when it comes to that. But my colleagues do touch base on that when it comes to the marine aspect of it, because same thing. Engineers need to know maths, and then they need to get the marine biologists as well, to the experts who are on ground to explain and tell them, hey, this is what's happening out there. Yeah. So I think that wraps that question up.
Thank you for that very detailed breakdown. Thank you. I think it was actually needed because even though I know certain parts of it, I don't know everything. And it's, the viewers as well. So thank you for that detailed breakdown. My next question would be, what are some requirements to pursue such a career? If somebody wants to be a marine biologist, what do they do? What do they study?
All right. So presently, I know that the University of Guyana is offering a marine biology program. They can definitely, yeah, they can definitely go and pursue that course there. It's the same as the 4 years bachelor's degree. You do the first 2 years of the associate in biology, and then you specialize into marine biology, genetics, biochemistry, microbiology, or just general biology. I personally did general biology because at that time that was the only option that was available, and this was in 2012 when I started, graduated in 2016. I feel old now. But nevertheless, so they can go, if they're going to do it here in Guyana, they can go straight into the marine biology program. If they're going to do it overseas, there is also many disciplines of marine biology as well. Like I said, you can for the first 2 years, the program, the associate, and then you can branch into marine sciences. You can do marine technology. You can do marine pharmaceuticals, marine engineering. We got oceanographers, and oceanographers, there's three aspects of it. You got the physical, which deals with the physics parts of it. You have the chemical, the chemistry part, and then you have the biological part of it, which talks about the microbiology, the fishes, and so on. And also, just to note as well too, I would always say that a fisherman is a marine biologist. You know why? Because he's out there 24/7. He's seeing the fishes. He knows more about the fishes than I do. And for anybody in particular. So I would always say that a fisherman is not just a fisherman. It's just a name that they're termed as a fisherman, but he's also a scientist there on ground. And the next part of it, let's say you've done your first degree, but it's chemistry, pharmacy, or so on. But then you had a little change in heart and you want to pursue marine sciences and marine biology, you can go straight into the master's program. And that's where you start to specialize in. Again, look for what you're interested in. If you're interested in fishes, you're interested in dolphins, you're interested in marine diseases or zoonotic diseases, you're interested in we call these things dinoflagellates and zooplanktons, or plankton from SpongeBob, right? Yeah, him. If you're interested in those part, that's microbiology as well. So there are many, many, many disciplines in it. So don't just do marine biology as a general thing. Go to something that you can specialize in. Once you're specialized in that, you can definitely start tackling that particular area, like the volcano specialist, right? Yeah. And then you can move on to the PhD as well too, where you're more specialized in a particular area. For me, I specialize more in toxicology, meaning toxic stuff, heavy metal, microplastics, oil spills, those particular areas that I'm specialized in. But in Guyana, you're pretty much all around though, in every little area. Um, yeah, and oh, you asked me about requirements, right? Yes. So now you're doing all of this study and you don't have any practice, then that doesn't make you a marine biologist. Like I said, if you're a fisherman, you are much more qualified as a marine biologist in practice as compared to paper. But you have the paper, you need to put it in practice. And this is where you, as young as you be, whether you're 10, 12, 5, 16, 22, 30, 40, always volunteer. Volunteer with NGOs. There are numbers of NGOs here in Guyana. Then you can get that. And I know a lot of NGOs presently, even consultancies, they work on coastal marine aspect of it. I know there's a Guyana Marine Conservation Society. You have the environmental management consultancies. You have GYNE. I think it's GYN. Yes. Guyana Youth Environmental Network. There's climate change group. Those are all those things that is good to join and be a part of them, among many other volunteer groups and NGO. And also simple church group as well. If you're very religious, join a church group because you never know what you can learn out there. Yeah. So that's basically summarize of requirements to pursue that.
All right, thank you again. Like you mentioned, it makes no sense doing your degree when you don't have the practical experience. You become kind of like, what are you doing exactly?
Exactly. It's like on paper,
You
it's
need
like
to be
you
able
got.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, you need to be able to at least, if not do everything, be able to do something. So
Correct,
yeah,
exactly something. And it starts from the very, very basics. If you're at home and all too, and you're out fish, like let's say fishing, because that's where we all, I know when I was younger growing up, I would fish, with your friends, come over, you dig up some worms and go and fish. It starts with that. That's where it starts, Bill. And then you never know, somebody might see and or identify your potential and say, hey, I have this NGO, you should come be a part of it. And all of that happens. And
yeah, that's true. Because for me, like I told you before, I was more into the sciences. Then I joined STEM Guy in 2018, and they were more robotics wise, tech wise, and I kind of just went with it.
you just
So
went with the
yeah,
flow. Mhm.
correct. So my next question would be, how has your journey been so far?
Oh, good question. Well, like I mentioned before, it's been good, both challenging and rewarding. Some days you have a lot of work and then some days you don't. I think that's the part that can be a little challenging when I don't have anything to do. It's strange. It's very weird because I know a lot of people say, "Hey, I love having free time. I just want to go home and relax and so on." But I enjoy my work. That's something that I can't change. Um, if somebody say, hey, Maria, we're going offshore, let's go. Right away, I would say, all right, sure. I would drop my bag, drop my work, and go out there because at the same time, I know how to multitask. Multitasking is good. But there are some cases too, that can be very, very challenging. And we're like, I'm fed up. I ain't able with this thing anymore. I think I'm quitting. There are a number of times that I felt so, but you never quit. And quitters are people that just want to quit and don't do anything else. But let's say I can simply say in a nutshell that it started with a deep love for the ocean, and I pursue my degrees in my studies in marine biology, and I've worked on various research project, and of course did many internships or volunteers, more volunteering stuff that allow me to gain that practical experience. And over time, I've pretty much built on, networking with people, networking with colleagues, knowing some of the work that they do, learning. Learning is quite incredible as you gain experience and knowledge from them, and it's good for your growth as well. And each step, from field work to presenting research at conference, even contributing on behalf of Guyana, is being incredible. I can't say that that hasn't been rewarding at all, because you get to meet so many people from different parts of the world that also shares that great interest and great passion for the work that's being done. And like especially if you're looking for funding and so on, you can network with those people and they say, hey, well, there's some amount of funding that we can assist Guyana with and so on. So I think that's the rewarding part of it. The things, I think, how is it that my studies contributing back to the growth and development of Guyana? That's the rewarding part of it.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, my next question would be, what does success look like for you, or how do you know that you're successful as a marine biologist?
I think this would be a very simple question. Seeing people smile with the work that I do and they're eager to join it. I think that's my success. Pretty much knowing that they're interested and I see that we're satisfying people. That's where my success come as a personal satisfaction. Knowing that I've helped somebody, or I've helped to improve some sort of policy change or improve conservation practice. That's how I feel, satisfied from my end.
I like that. The fact that your work can speak for itself and that it can inspire somebody, yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, my other challenge would be, what do you enjoy most about your job as a marine biologist?
What do I enjoy most about it? Ah, I think that answer that question, well, I love field work and I love seeing people happy. Going into communities in particular, that's quite incredible. And sharing the wealth of knowledge that I have to young people, young interested researchers or scientists, that's a very fun part of it. Once you're eager and excited, I can't say more. It's good. It's very nice. But I love research. I can't run away from that. I'm always curious. I always like to pick a brain or two here and there. Why is this happening? What can we do? And so on. Yep. And I think this would come back to a part of like, how can I network? How can I make these people come together? What can I do? So that's a part of it that I enjoy.
Okay. You're the people person, yeah. Um, I kind of, so for me, I I would say I'm kind of almost the same kind of person, but I'm not always a people person. There are times when I'm very reserved. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it happens. We all go through that stage. Sometimes I'd be like, I don't feel like I want to meet people today. Or I see my phone ring and I was like, do I really want to answer it? But I still do answer it any days because you never know what they're calling for, right?
Right.
But I do have that part of it too.
My next question is, um, how did imposter syndrome look like for you, and how did you deal with it?
Ah, that's a very good question. Well, self-doubt is something that we can't run from. I mean, it's something that I think everybody struggle with. I remember this particular individual, um, she was impressive. And I felt, like when you feel that, hey, I'm a marine biologist, I know what's happening, but then you meet somebody and you hear the person start speaking and you're like, I don't think I want to ask any question. I think I'm just gonna sit here and relax. And then you start to self-doubt yourself. So that is something that I think that's in me all the time. I always self-doubt myself. I always ask myself question, what am I doing this for? Is it really worth it? But then when you realize when you get to do it over time, it becomes like, hey, I know my stuff. People are going to ask questions, but at the end of the day, it's your work, and you know what is it, and you have to do you. If you don't, well, then you're going to always have that, manifestation of self doubt. I know I can give you another example. Every time when I have to present, I get nervous. That's something I can't. Well, tonight I'm not that nervous because I'm home and I'm much more relaxed. But imagine you're in front of an audience with a whole lot of people, and the first thing, am I going to screw up or not? And if I'm going to say the wrong word, it always happens. But like I said, over time, I learned to recognize that these feelings and focus on positive feedback. And my colleagues and friends, they will always support and say, "Man, you got this. You do well. You got this. You can wing it." So a little bit of encouragement of always work. Um, yeah. So it it helps to manage the self-doubt, or as you say, the imposter syndrome, but it's something that we can't run from at all. Maybe some people don't, but I personally do.
It's the same for me as well. Um, there are times when you have to present, and then you get nervous. Even for the
Mhm.
podcast, there are times when I just have to like, okay, sit, breathe, and then go again. So there are times when you do actually get it, but you can't always allow it to control you.
Exactly. So you just gotta, it's always that first minute or the 60 seconds. It does always feel long, but after you get into it, everything else becomes flowing free, comfortable with everything. Because then you realize that you're engaging the audience and the audience are interested in what you're doing, what you're presenting.
Correct. Um, so my last two questions. What advice would you give to a young adult who should pursue the same career? I think you mentioned something at the start when you were talking about the diverse career that they can pursue. What advice would you give to them?
Um, I think I mentioned a lot of that it earlier in terms
Yeah,
of, parents and stuff like that. So I think well, that would be more like stay curious, be passionate about the ocean, especially for those who want to pursue marine biology. Um, it's always a curiosity. It starts with that part of it. You definitely need to gain as much practical experience as you can, especially throughout your volunteering, your field work, if you're in UG or so on. And of course, you have to build strong foundation in the STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, whichever area it is, and develop the skills, especially if you want to be uh do scientific writing as well too. It calls for a lot of English writing or how is it grammatically incorrect? Well, yeah, I never liked English in UG, but that's why I think I strayed more to the science part of it. But most importantly, right, you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. Always seek out mentors or people who you think could guide you along the way. Because if you're gonna focus in one small niche all the time, that might not be the best option. You need to branch out and explore. And with the use of technology today, there's so much access to the world web, right? So information is there, but curiosity is where it starts from. Be curious, gain some experience, understand it, know if you're like it. Because if you're gonna pursue something, like if you're going to pursue medicine and I want to help people, that's your passion. And being a doctor, that's the only way that I can help people. That's slightly incorrect. When you actually go there and to pursue medicine, you realize you're walking along over, you're seeing people in different forms, different shape, different injuries, and then you realize, I'm not going to do this. So that's where the volunteering and internship and the field work experience come. Do that first, and then pursue your degree, or whilst you're doing it at the same point of time. So yeah.
Thank you for that advice. So like I told you, I had various careers lined up when I was a kid. Being I would say being a doctor is one of them. Working in the medical field. However, I don't think I could ever go and tell somebody that their parent or a relative died. And I just then I was like, no, I can't do this. Because
Yeah, it's
I
very
can't think
difficult.
somebody wants to tell me that, so I went, so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying that medicine is not the best field. It's the best if you're passionate about it. I was passionate about it. I was well into wanted to do medicine, but then, I found a love for the ocean. So that's how come I decided to venture off, and I still do it. I still love it. And I still help people understand and provide, education and awareness of the importance of our ocean and things that we can get done and do together. So in that way, technically helping them as well too.
True. Um, yeah. So like I mentioned, or like you mentioned, matter of fact, you have to get practical experience. Don't just do the degree, just to get the certificate to still here the degree, but to get the experience as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add before we end?
Um, From the marine aspect of it, so marine biology is a field that requires dedication and perseverance, right? But it's also very incredibly rewarding, like I mentioned to you earlier. You never know where you can get with that degree. Like I started out as simply collecting data to now into the management aspect of it and representing Guyana on an international level. So it's a slow curve going up? How do you say, a log curve, if I am correct? Yeah. And the ocean is vast and it's full of mysteries waiting to be undiscovered. And by choosing this path, you are actually contributing to the understanding and the conservation of the planet's most vital ecosystem. So stay passionate, stay curious, and remember that your work will and can make a difference to our future generation.
All right, I'm feeling inspired here. So thank you, Miss Maria, for sharing with us tonight. For our viewers, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram at STEMI Conversations, as well as YouTube and the major podcasting sites. Do have a great evening.
Thank you, and you too.